Hi, I'm currently in the Netherlands staying at my parents' house. While I'm here, I decided to go up into the attic and dig through some old boxes, and I found some of my favorite childhood books. And a lot of these books were written by the same Dutch author, so I figured it'd be fun to talk about these books in a video. The author that I want to talk about is one that almost every Dutch kid or adult will be familiar with. So here are some of my favorite books by Schmidt. We're gonna start with the most famous one, which is probably Yip and Janneke. This is a story of a young boy and girl who are next door neighbors. The boy is called Yip and the girl is called Janneke, and together they have lots of adventures. I was going through this book and I have so many memories connected to every single one of these stories. This is the very first one when they find each other by going through a hole in the hedge between their gardens. A lot of these stories are very straightforward and very simple. Like, for example, one day one of their moms is ill and they go and make her some breakfast, I think. So Schmidt worked with this illustrator a lot, Petteflet, and all the other books I'm going to show you will have illustrations by the same illustrator. These two are very, very famous. If you go to a Dutch shop called Hema, where they sell a bunch of different stuff, you will find band-aids with drawings of these characters on them. Just for reference, the first of these stories were published in 1953. And in case you're interested, there's definitely an English translation of this that you can buy. Then we have Flutter Chia by the same author and illustrator. This is a story of a little girl called Flutter Chia who can't help but get really messy, and her mom wants her to be spotless, but somehow she always manages to get very messy. Then always ends up with her in the bathtub. Also, this was, I think, my very first experience of maybe not exactly a pun, but something similar. The kids in the neighborhood wanted ice cream, and then I think she shaved all their heads, or maybe they did it themselves, and then they wrote this on the back. Wij eisen ijs. We demand ice cream. And the word for demand and ice cream is very similar in Dutch. There's just a different spelling. There's definitely a wedding dress that gets ruined and the bride ends up thinking that it's very fashionable and loves it. And there's a scene with her making tomato soup. Then we have one that is probably my favorite, and that is Otje. It's about a young girl called Otje and her dad called Tos, who is a chef. They live in a really fancy hotel, but her dad has some anger issues, so sometimes he will start yelling at people, and then one day he really gets fired and they are in trouble. My favorite bit is that Otje can talk to animals, so one day her dad gets asked if he can go out into the forest and shoot some birds, and Otje obviously doesn't want that to happen because the birds are her friends, so they have to figure out a different plan. There's definitely talk of her dad not having the right papers to find a job, so one day all the birds gather all the paper they can find and bring it to Otje and her dad. That's just a really adorable and really sad scene. This is also a wonderful, wonderful book. And then finally we have Pluk van de Petteflet, which is about a little boy called Pluk who has a fire truck, and he lives in this massive apartment building with a bunch of strange people. This book is a bit of a combination of reality and some strange fantasy. For example, there is a horse that looks like this. On the back you can see all the different people that live in the same building. My favorite bit is the one crazy lady that I think lives on the top floor called Mevrouw Helderder, who is obsessed with cleaning. And then one day she gets attacked by seagulls. So those were some of my very favorite childhood books by Schmidt with the illustrations of Petteflet. I'll put some links in the description to translated versions of these books and maybe some extra information you might want to check out. I hope you enjoyed this little peek into Dutch children's literature, and I'll talk to you guys later. Doei!